Hello, and welcome to another episode of Momentum. I'm your host, Philip Allison. Our guest today is Erin Parker, a graduate student in industrial engineering. Erin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you're in grad school now. You actually just finished your undergrad in May, and we'll get to those. But I guess, so you've been here on campus for a number of years. How did you get here? Let's start with this simple question.
Yeah, so I'm originally from outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And when I was looking for colleges, all of the ones that were in my state didn't really have exactly what I wanted to do. And so I started looking just around the Southeast. And I came to Mississippi State, and I loved the campus. I loved that they had the degree programs I was looking for, and I loved all the people here, so I decided to come to the state.
Did you know from the beginning that you wanted to do engineering, and did you have a very specific focus in mind?
Yes, so coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to do engineering, and I had the vision in mind of doing wearable technology. I didn't know exactly how that would look, but that was the idea I had, and so I ended up with computer engineering.
Oh, wow. So what was the kind of the transition there? How did you make the switch from, or not the switch, but the step from wearable technology to computer engineering? I would imagine most high school seniors aren't plugged in enough to kind of know that that's the process.
Yeah, so really what you're looking at in wearables is basically just miniature computers. And so a lot of computer engineering is being able to shrink down systems and really embed them into whatever it is, the devices that you're building.
Yeah. When we're talking a little bit about, you were a computer engineering major, but you also had a very interesting double major,
Yes.
which was fashion, merchandising, and design. And that and computer engineering are maybe two things that don't sound like they go together.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about kind of that process and how you got into those two majors.
Yeah, so with wearable technology, you do have those two main parts. You have the computer and electronic side, and then you also have the wearable side. So knowing how to design both of those was really important to me and something I wanted to know. And so, like you said, you don't think those two things would go together, but I've kind of found that the design process can be very similar, if not exactly the same. No matter what it is you're designing, you have your idea, and then you have to go through product development, the stages of that, sourcing your materials, and doing all that kind of stuff before you can actually have your product. So that process pretty much stays the same no matter what it is that you're making.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to admit, when I first heard that you were a double major in those two things, I was like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But then, clothing and especially like workout gear and, kind of stuff has made a lot of technological advances in the last decade or more, and someone has to engineer those advances.
Yeah.
And did you know coming in that you wanted to double major, or was it this just kind of the perfect fit for you because you kind of discovered you were able to?
I actually knew coming in that I wanted to double major. So when I was on campus for orientation, I was listed as undeclared engineering, but that week, or those few days I was there, I added my double major in fashion design, got all the papers signed, and then also officially switched to computer engineering.
So you finished with two separate degrees.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's great that you had a plan and you were able to kind of follow through, and Mississippi State was the perfect place for that to happen. You mentioned that there are some similarities, especially in terms of kind of design process, but I'd imagine there's some differences in those programs as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. So in engineering, you mostly have a male-dominated field. I had some labs where I was the only girl in those labs, but then fashion design is the exact opposite, where you have mostly females. So it was really interesting a lot of the time, going from a fashion design class with mostly females straight to, Cal 3, where most of my classmates are males. It was very, very interesting process.
Yeah. And then when you were in school, you mentioned you graduated in May and you were elected into the Bagley College of Engineering
Yes.
Student Hall of Fame, which congratulations.
Thank you.
It's very prestigious. Only a handful of students make that each year. Were you surprised by that?
I was a little bit surprised, and I was also nominated by the wonderful advisor in computer engineering, and I think that was just so amazing. I only see her about once a year whenever I'm, registering, or twice a year when I'm registering for classes, but it was just nice to know that I actually stuck out in her mind enough that she would be nice enough to nominate me for that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a very prestigious honor,
Yes,
so congratulations.
thank you.
So now you've moved on to grad school, and you have actually moved disciplines into industrial engineering. How's that transition been from computer engineering to industrial engineering? Is there a big difference there?
Yes, so there's a big difference in terms of course content, but I think classes, how they operate pretty much stays the same. So in computer engineering, it was mostly, hardware and coding and figuring out how to design and how to build those computers. But industrial engineering, I'm concentrating in manufacturing. And that's a little bit of different because industrial engineering is more so the designing of processes, where than it is the designing of things or computers. So that has been a little bit of a shift, is kind of trying to learn how to design processes instead of things.
Yeah, has the computer engineering background helped at all with that? Or?
Yes, it has. So there's actually a lot of programming still within industrial engineering. It's just more so, instead of writing actual lines of code, you're programming simulations, or you're programming just for math, or doing things in Excel where you're needing to get more complicated statistics out of this processes to see about quality management and just things like that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned wearable sensors, and I know that you are very heavily involved in a major research project here at the university as part of our athlete engineering program. Talk a little bit about your research there and kind of some of the things you guys are working on.
Sure. So I got started with athlete engineering a little over 2 years ago. I knew someone who was already working on the team, and they said, we're working on a sock project that is going to have wearable sensors embedded into it. And I said, that's right up my alley. It's exactly what I want to do. So I got connected with the team, started working, and basically over the last 2 years is we're trying to get these socks from what is just a lab tool. Basically, we have our hardware on the socks that we can take on and off if we need to replace anything or anything breaks, but we're trying to get that now to more of a commercial product where everything's actually embedded and everything is commercially made in large sizes, which is a big gap that we're trying to work on now to cover. But it's just been great working on that team. There's so many different types of people that are all involved with athlete engineering. There's almost every discipline of engineering. There's kinesiology, there's fashion design and merchandising. And so it's just a great team, and I love it all around.
Yeah, and I know they do a lot of work over at Cavs,
Yes.
and I think psychology's involved.
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously athletics. And yeah, it's a major project, and some of the things that I've heard about it are just kind of really fascinating.
Yeah.
And we actually had Dr. Ruben Birch on the show, I think last year, and he talked a lot about it,
Yes.
and about kind of the wearable technology and where that's going. Is it kind of interesting? It's kind of, I would imagine as a student, it's very cool to be able to work with that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so great that as an undergrad, I had the opportunity to begin working with research and research of this magnitude. Wearable technology is a new field that's really starting to come up, and so there's problems that need to be solved that really just don't have solutions yet. And as a student, being able to look at those problems and try and solve them while you're still in school is really, really great experience.
Yeah. And I guess, do you kind of, what are your visions for the future? Like, where do you hope to take this?
So I would love to eventually get my PhD and begin working as a professor and giving back to some students, because I had such a good time here. And I think college is a really good time for students to be able to learn and grow with what it is that they're trying to do. And I think being able to kind of give some of that back would be something that I would really enjoy doing.
Yeah. Stick around here for your PhD?
We'll see.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd love to.
And then I know kind of we'll kind of move outside the classroom, you are involved in the MSU Community Band, which
Yes,
frankly
I have been, yes.
I'd not heard of. Can you tell us what that is and kind of what your involvement is?
So the Community Band is an opportunity that the band program has given to community members, so either people that are involved with the university or people that are not at all, to just come and play their instruments together. That's something I was always involved in band in middle and high school, and I always really loved that. It was so much fun. I love just the large group of people getting together and working together to make something beautiful. I just really like that part of band. And I had been missing that. I didn't really have time as a double major to fully get involved with marching band or even just a normal band class. But I heard that we had a community band, and I didn't know, I had never heard of such a thing, but I ended up going, I think starting my sophomore year, and have been going every year since, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, one of the questions I know that prospective students ask when they come to Mississippi State is, can I be an engineer and be involved in at least the marching band, because that's a lot of engineering students have a band background, and the answer that I heard back was, if it weren't for engineering students, there would be no marching band.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that there's another outlet for folks that maybe don't have the time to do the full marching band.
Yeah.
And what instrument do you play?
So I'm actually a percussionist.
Okay.
So I mainly would play timpani and then mallet instruments like the marimba or xylophone.
Nice. And then I guess as you're kind of looking forward, you talked about wanting to give back and maybe get into teaching. What advice would you have for prospective students who maybe want to study engineering?
So I would say just get to know your professors, get to know your classmates, because when it comes to the end of the day, those are the people that are really going to let you know what jobs are available or just what you might need to know down the line. for your career. So that's what I would say is the main thing, is just get to know your classmates and your professors.
And then I guess kind of looking, at your current situation in grad school and industrial engineering, how much longer do you have?
I have a year left.
About a year left.
Yes.
So, and then looking at PhD programs and looking back at your time at Mississippi State, is there like a favorite class or favorite professor that you can point to?
Sure. I will go ahead and talk about one of the professors involved with athlete engineering. His name is Dr. Charles Freeman. He's in the fashion design department. And I just love taking his product development classes. We kind of have a little bit of a banter back and forth now. We've been working together for a few years. But he just really is passionate about what he's doing and knows what is going on and knows how to help students and is really, really passionate about that.
Yeah. And I know you also work with Dr. John Ball
Yes.
over in electrical and computer engineering as part of this project as
Yes.
well. And I thought it was very interesting when I was over in the lab, not too long ago, and I saw you guys working with the mannequin and the little sock. And kind of what has that experience been like, just kind of being kind of in an actual lab working? It's
been really great, especially with working with Dr. Ball and working with the other students on our team. Just being able to solve those problems that we're having, or even to just learn all of the depth of knowledge that Dr. Ball has, because he knows so much. And even being in his classes was also great to he's an amazing teacher. But working in the lab has been just amazing. It's a wonderful experience, especially if you have never worked on that kind of project before, where you're having to build something with other people. It's really a learning experience, both in whatever the subject is that you're doing, but also in communication and teamwork.
Yeah, I know that's a great opportunity for our students. Is obviously they have classes they have to go to,
Yes.
but our students both at the undergrad and grad level have a variety of opportunities to actually get in and do some really interesting research, and if they can connect with a professor and find some things that they're interested in. And that's a great opportunity for our students. I'm glad you're able to take advantage of it.
Yes, it's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah, well, great. Well, good luck for the rest of your time here, and thank you so much for being here. We're
Yes,
glad to
thank
have
you. Thank you for having me.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. Remember, you can keep up with all the latest news at the Bagley College of Engineering on our website at bagley.msstate.edu, and you can follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching.